Hello, welcome back to another first appearance rating video. First up, for years I was obsessed with Warlock, him. For those that watch my channel long enough, you have heard me talk about that. Being one of the first, if not the first, Fantastic Four book I ever read was FF 67. So I was always interested in the Cocoon. So many years later, I stumbled across a book in the bargain bin that looked like this, and right away I'm just like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" So I naturally I had to buy it, and it's one of those stories that have a lot of potential, but I think they didn't do justice to the story. On the same scientist that created him this time recruited Doctor Strange to help them, but they didn't know Doctor Strange had power. They recruited more for his surgery skills. Yeah, so that's kind of kooky. I'm not a big fan of the story. In fact, it was just so. I'm trying to find the right word for it. It's just, it was not put together well. But regardless, look at that. Okay, so this creation is called Paragon, and I give the story a 2.5 out of 5 because, like I said, it's interesting, but at the same time, it's kind of haphazardly put together. It's average at best. I think I'm being kind to give it 2.5 out of 5. But as far as Paragon, I'm not sure if the person, the writer of this was somebody that I am not very familiar with at all. David Kraft, not a Marvel big writer. I'm not sure if the intention of this characters had anything to do with how him and Warlock was created, because this was created and it took a few years later before Paragon resurfaced, much like him was created and then he resurfaced a few years later as Warlock. So I'm not sure if there is the original intent was to do something similar, but regardless, Paragon look was a 3 out of 5. Nothing outrageously cool or bad. He looked like an Egyptian god. But regardless, he was pretty powerful. And then eventually, Hulk and Doctor Strange, he was able to stood up to Doctor Strange and Hulk and fight them toe to toe. So he was very powerful. And once again, of course, their creation, just like him, did not care to deal with the people that created him. So back into the cocoon he went by the end of the story. So you're talking a 5.5 out of 10. Nothing, more or less average, somewhat of disappointment for me as far as buying this book and get excited about the cover. As always, a lot of time the cover is more interesting than the interior. But then a few years later, I found this in the bargain bin. And once again, my obsession with the cocoon, I'm like, what is this? And to my surprise, it ties in with this book. Okay? And it's her, which I thought was really interesting. And for that, I thought it was neat. I liked the story. This was more of a coming out story. As you can see, the art was average at best. The art is, the writer was Mark Grenwall, Jerry Bingham, and Gene Day is the team that did the art. It was okay, but as you can see here, once again, the cocoon is open, and this time of Life Force came out as a she. Like I said, the look, not all that jazzy. Once again, the story was actually the story is slightly more interesting because it's a she, and she's looking for him. She went back into the database, the computer database, and found out that it's a him, and she want to hook up with him, only to find out that he died. So basically she's in search for the dead warlock. And it's like I said, the art was okay. The story was somewhat interesting. I give it a 3 out of 5. Once again, I give the character a 3 out of 5. It's mildly interesting. Certainly, it would have been. I think it's one of those characters. I'm not very familiar with her current situation in the Marvel universe, but certainly, it would be fun to see how he and she team up together as a couple. But I guess for those current readers, maybe you know more about what's happened to Paragon. I'm not sure if her name is still Paragon, but like I said, her look is organic. She got that orange skin, okay, as Adam Warlock did, but her costume is nothing exciting. What gives her a 3 out of 5 is more of her connection to Warlock than her look and power. Her power is nothing special, but I gave the book a 6 out of 10, slightly higher than this one. Here's one character that had a pretty decent intro. Klaw. This is, of course, the second half of the intro to Black Panther issue 53. This is just like issue 52. Issue 52 and 53 are notoriously difficult to find in high grade. This is my, I would say, at best 8.0. Okay, at best 8.0. I call it 8.0. I'm comfy with that copy, which is decent grade, but I give you a closer look because I think the artwork of Kirby inside is just fantastic. By this point of his career, I would say it's my favorite. Everybody have a different favorite time frame of Kirby. For me, it's this time between issue 46 through the 70-ish, I think. But I think Joe Sinat and Kirby hit it out of the park. So it's worth showing the page inside. But so Klaw was introduced in here. His look was nothing. The story get a 4 out of 5 for me because I like the origin of the Black Panther. As far as Klaw, he got a 2.5 out of 5 because he's just an evil guy. Cool name, Klaw, but other than that, his sound, weapon, nothing interesting. But his re-intro to the Marvel comic book was a lot more interesting. I love the look for FF56. This is also, I say, maybe 8.5-ish. I love this look. Oh my god, this is for a B character. This is one heck of a cool re-intro of the look, his hand. It's just cool. I mean, I will show the inside of this book as well. Might as well. But the look, the name, the power, but the look, the name, 4 out of 5. Love it. As far as the story, it's a typical Fantastic Four Silver Age. Klaw came in, of course. Well, for this story, he mostly tangled with Sue. And then, of course, Reed Richard came in at the end to save her. And, of course, he was able to obtain vibranium thing for his fist so that he can use it to fight. I mean, in a typical Reed Richard fashion, he came up with a way to get the weapon he needed to defeat Klaw. Nothing, nothing different to expect out of the typical Fantastic Four Silver Age book. So for the story, unfortunately, I give it a 2.5 out of 5 because it's not groundbreaking. It's not a wow story. It's not a must read, but it's a must look character. So this book get a 6.5 out of 10 because Claude get a 4 out of 5 for just his look alone. It is way too cool. Definitely one of my another one of those B character that is just look awesome. Anyhow, if you want to take a closer look, stick around. If not, thanks for watching. Bye. Now that I have a closer look of the book, when I first made the video, I thought this book was more around 8-ish, but now that I have a closer examination, I say it's more or less a 7.5. Okay, still a nice mid-grade. I'm telling you, if I can get books that look like this, 7.5-ish, I have no problem getting them for cheap because they are a lot more affordable than buying high-grade Silver Age. There you go. Very nice. The art is just beautiful. I'm a big fan of Kirby at this stage of his career. Kirby has a way of drawing monster, and I just love it. We'll go back to his root of being, drawing the monster. Look at that. That is just awesome looking. Just everything. The shape, the muscle. Josie not inking by this stage is like so spot on, just gorgeous. And there you go, that's a first look of Klaw. It's just an evil guy. that's it. That's the end of the story as he go through the machine. Okay, let's take a look at issue 56 real quick. There you go. Right off the bat, you get to see the new look. Love it. Typical Kirby fashion. Crazy looking machine. Only Kirby can do what he does. Look at that. From his world of imagination. Okay. The Inhuman, of course, is a subplot to this story, but let's focus. Look at that. That's such an awesome looking. Look at that. Kirby dynamic right there. Look at that. Awesome. Kind of recap what happened to him back in issue 53. And now he's gonna go on and fight Sue. I'm just gonna flip through it as quick as I can. Of course, Klaw resurfaced many times in other books like the Avengers, but he is one of those B-level villain that really, never really get a foothold. And I'm not sure what would be a good fit. Usually a good villain is a good fit for certain heroes, like Kingpin with Spider-Man and Daredevil, but I'm not sure Klaw is a good fit for any particular superhero other than him joining up with a bunch of other bad guys, right? That's what they did. So he will forever be at best a B-level character. And there you go. Once again, Reed Richards comes save the day. Great looking action though. Just love that. I love the way how Kirby changed slowly, the way the Fantastic Four look. If you look at the older Fantastic Four, Reed Richards is not this muscular. Okay, he become much more muscular later, but definitely not in the first dozen issues of Fantastic Four. That's it. That's the end. If you stayed to this part, thanks for watching. Until next time, bye.